So, this is what happens in Fire Emblem 6. This game takes place 20 years after FE7, and immediately starts off with King Zephiel bulldozing through Sakai and Ilia, and continuing on to the Lichen League where he intends to take control of them too. Okay, before we go on, can we just take a second to blame Jafar for this whole game? If it wasn't for him and his emotions with Nino, Zephiel would already be dead, and Hector would be alive. And everyone likes Hector. Nice job, Jafar, you killed Hector. After Roy helps his father fend off bandits attacking Castle Foray, Ellie Wood, who in this game is only slightly more useful than IGN's Fire Emblem Awakening tutorial video.
If you want, just have your smaller guys go in and pick off XP or the points from the HP from the guys, and then have Frederick come in and kill them.
Yeah.
Tells his 14-year-old kid to go to Erefin, where they can discuss how to deal with Zephiel's pissy angst. On the way, they meet Guinevere, the baby fox-loving younger sister of Zephiel, who wishes to see this feud end peacefully. She also stole the Fire Emblem, which in this game is absurdly more important than in FE7. Unfortunately for them, they were too late and Hector was defeated by Zephiel's forces. Zephiel leaves Erefin and puts Narshan in charge. He leaves the job to take care of Roy's army to some random night guy. Roy defeats said night guy and learns from a dying Hector that Byrne has somehow hired what amounts to the Monstars of the Olivian world to hoop on their team. They head to Ostia in hopes of rescuing Lelina from Byrne's influence. On the way they stop by Lost, where Eric, in cooperation with Narshan, tries to dupe and trap Roy, but Narshan again conveniently leaves to go on some other business, and Eric gets murked. Once in Ostia, they end the rebellion, save Lelina, and get conveniently saved from Narshan again, this time by the Etrurian army, led by Mage General Cecilia, and... wait, what? She's the Mage General? Wow, ever since Pent retired, Etruria seriously lowered their entry bar for that position. They tell Narshan and his soldiers to get out of town, and as payment for Roy being saved by Etruria's army, they become Etruria's grunt force. It's here that the gang sees Byrne's dragons in action for the first time. It's also here where you realize that using legendary weapons against the dragons drops them faster than the time it takes for me to send Wendy to the bench. Roy hurries out of the Isles after news reaches him that revolutionaries siding with Byrne overpowered Cecilia's army in Etruria and consequently forced her army to Misur. Cecilia is thrown in prison to die after Zephiel overwhelms her army, and Guinevere, who split paths with Roy at the Western Isles, is captured too. Well, Zephiel makes the mistake of giving Narshan any sort of responsibility ever, and Guinevere manages to escape to rejoin Roy. Seriously, this whole underestimating the heroes thing might be getting a little bit dumb after the third time. But sure, let's go for a fourth. The gang takes back Misur and meets Sophia, a half-dragon that doesn't have a dragonstone, which makes her about as useless as a Twilight Princess HD remake. Sophia warns that Byrne is going to Arcadia, the city of dragons, so Roy rushes to the Nevada desert. Here they meet Faye, a divine dragon living under protection from the outside world. But after Roy is done with Byrne's forces and leaves, she manages to escape the village in pursuit of him. Presumably because living with dragons in this universe is probably really fucking boring. Seriously, there's literally only one other dragon in this whole game aside from Faye that actually does something, and even that's kinda stretching it. Roy then storms Aquilia. Aquilia? I don't know. Capital of Etruria, and finally fights Narshan. Narshan obviously fails because he's Narshan and Etruria is finally free. Both the Lichen and Etrurian army drive out Byrne's forces from Ilia to Sakai. Depending on certain game requirements, Roy might go to Sakai or Ilia. Pro tip though, go Sakai. The chapters are way funner and you don't need to deal with shitty flyers and snow and frozen rivers and stuff. Once Nime joins the team, Roy learns that Zephiel managed to take control of the demon dragon Idun. And the demon dragon has the power to create war dragons. War dragons in particular are the ones you've been fighting the whole time. She also mentions that the cause of the eternal winter, which is a catastrophic climate change, was caused by the sheer magical power of dragons. Roy is also told that the Sword of Seals is the ultimate weapon that can take on both Zephiel and the demon dragon, so he goes to the Shrine of Seals and unlocks the sword with the Fire Emblem. And with the power of the most overpowered weapon in the franchise and perhaps all of Nintendo, Roy promotes, finally, and goes to Byrne to end the war. At the Byrne Castle, Zephiel orders Idun to go to the Dragon Temple and stay there to succeed his goal of eradicating the humans if Zephiel falls. Well, Zephiel does fall, but that's kinda putting it lightly. The only thing that has died faster than Zephiel was any hope of the Sixers making the playoffs this year. Roy grabs the X-Axe, and combined with the rest of the legendary weapons, it points Roy to the Dragon Temple. And after defeating the rest of Byrne's stragglers, they enter the temple and meet Jan, the last true dragon remaining at the Dragon Temple. Here, Jan explains to Roy the truth about the Scouring. Jan and the dragons needed the power of a divine dragon to gain the upper hand against the humans during the Scouring, so they asked the divine dragons to produce war dragons for them. They refused and escaped to Arcadia, but one divine dragon was left behind, Idun. The dragons destroyed her soul and forced her to become a demon dragon so she would create war dragons without hesitation. The humans answered back by creating the legendary weapons, but the weapons themselves were so broken that they caused the eternal winter. This extreme climate change was too much for the dragons to handle, so they created the dragon stones to conserve their power. The 8 heroes took advantage of this and sieged the dragon temple and slaughtered almost all the dragons. They found Idun, but Harmut realized that she was just a young girl. Instead of killing her, he knocked her unconscious, sealed the temple, and sealed the weapons away so that they would never be used again. But Zephiel unsealed the temple, resurrected Idun, teamed up with Jan, all with the intention to eradicate humans altogether. Why? Because Zephiel's mad that his dad tried to kill him 1 or 2 times. With the binding blade, Roy slays the dragon and carries out the unconscious Idun out of the temple. Idun is then sent to Nevada to live with Faye. Guinevere becomes the Queen of Bern, and Roy begins rebuilding Lisha. The end. Next time on This Is What Happens in... If you like this video, please leave a comment and a like, and please subscribe. Thank you.